Hey everyone, and welcome back to the news. So it's a really busy time because it is earnings report season. This is where all the big companies basically just share how things have been going to their investors. And this is useful to us as people who like games because we basically get to learn what the hell's going on. Today it is Take-Two Interactive. Of course, as the days rolls on, there'll be many more. It'll be quite a fun time to cover all of this. We have collected the key takeaways, the things that we should be on the lookout for, should be thinking about when it comes to Take-Two Interactive, who are a pretty damn big bunch. I mean, they do a lot more even past GTA and Red Dead. All right, so the first place to start us off for today's story is a little bit of the industry reaction to Blizzard's situation. So in the Q&A portion of the call, Mario Liu of Barclays asked basically what their thoughts are regarding the recent developments on gender inequality and all of that in the games industry. Very obviously spurred on by all of Blizzard's drama. Here is a lot of Strauss Zelnick's response. Strauss, of course, is the CEO of Take-Two Interactive. We find it very amusing that he's also absolutely shredded and basically has a book about how to, be young when you're old or something. Some fellow Strauss. But anyway, getting into his response, like he basically just said that people is their most important asset, that overall diversity is useful to them because the wider a pool they're drawing from in terms of talent and experience, the more can be brought to their games. Basically, it's a big old statement to that effect that also talks a little bit about them trying to invest in STEM programs and stuff in different regions like Canada, and that in terms of their board, they are a bit better represented. Now, the reason to bring this up in regards to Take-Two is that they're one of the companies who have actually had one of these big scandals. I think the difference is they seem to have handled it. I don't mean handled it like it's done and fixed, but of course, we all remember the stuff that came out about Rockstar, the developers of Grand Theft Auto and Red Dead. So here's some of the context. Basically, it's of misbehavior and a culture of fear at the higher levels of Rockstar. You want a TLDR, a Rockstar executive was accused of sexual harassment of a new hire, but it was dismissed by HR. In 2020, however, the backlash against both the Red Dead 2 crunch and all of that stuff seems to have actually pushed those big cultural changes at Rockstar, actually pushed them through, and that is according to Kotaku, who basically did a follow-up report on how things are actually going at the company. Which means that you look at all of Zelnick's statements and perhaps they don't ring super hollow. It seems like they're steps ahead of the likes of Activision Blizzard and Ubisoft. And then also there are some questions to be raised about EA because we haven't actually heard a great deal bad about EA in that regard. I mean, we've heard lots of bad about EA, just usually not in that area, so who knows. Okay, on to the actual performance of the company in the games. So on the topic of upcoming announcements and releases, they did say that there has been movement in their pipeline. Delays. That does include 2 of their immersive core titles shifting to later this fiscal year, but they say they are still quite optimistic about things, and Strauss said that these delays mean more polish, and that in addition to this, later this month, so this is some news for us, 2K Games, which is one of their labels, they're going to unveil details of another exciting new franchise planned for launch during this fiscal year. So we have a new franchise coming out from them pretty damn soon. They must be keeping their cards close to their chest there. Now, we've done some thinking about what this could actually be. Well, Immersive Core is how they conceptualize many of their big games, and this fiscal year, there are 4 planned. According to PC Gamer, this is going to be Ken Levine's basically immersive sci-fi game. Of course, Ken Levine, you know him from Bioshock Infinite, so pretty big name. There's also Firaxis's rumored Marvel XCOM game, which likely would be the one released under the 2K Games label. And then there's WWE and NBA for this year as well. And on that game from Ken Levine, all we know is it's an immersive sim, and that as of last October, it was in the later stages of production. So that's essentially what's going on. I'll say this. Big new immersive sim game from Ken Levine. I'm pretty interested in that. I know Bioshock Infinite had its severe problems in development, but I like the ideas that go into a bunch of those games, and if it is a sci-fi sim, I don't know if it's an immersive sim, so you're kind of getting some of those Deus Ex vibes, I'm pretty into that, so that's me already excited. Now let's talk about the actual performance of this company. Most of, I don't think there's many investors watching, but here we go. So Q1, their profits are down, but not as much as expected. Revenue's down 2%, net bookings down 29%, but that actually beat what they had forecast. Their net income is up 72% to 152 million, and they're crediting Grand Theft Auto 5, GTA Online, Red Dead 2, Red Dead Online, and Borderlands 3 for a stronger than expected Q1. But they did say that, comparison with last Q1 is tough because it was the first full quarter of the pandemic, and therefore sales surged. Because that's when the hardcore lockdowns happened, so everyone cooped up and bought some vidya. Now, big milestones. They've also had some announcements. Grand Theft Auto 5 has shipped 150 million units. That's absolutely bonkers. GTA Online actually is 72% bigger than it was 2 years ago. I mean, that growth is absolutely insane. Even say to the point where I've got to finally see what's going on with it. Then Red Dead 2, it's over 38 million copies now, and Red Dead Online has grown its audience by 18% in the past 2 years. And that's just the sort of thing Red Dead has, its online component to struggle a little bit versus GTA Online, which I guess you can sort of see. Immersive kind of Wild West sim is one thing. GTA does get to have a lot more of the crazy hijinks, and I wonder if that's just what appeals more for the sort of online audience. Then NBA 2K21 and Civ 6 have shipped 11 million units each, which is pretty damn impressive. It's nice to see a game like Civ actually produce the numbers. The future then, well, they're lowering expectations for the coming fiscal year, with revenues perhaps being as low as 12%, net bookings being down 15%, and net income being halved to somewhere between $41 and $53 million. But the big man himself, Strauss, said that he's confident growth is going to return soon. He said this, and in terms of the pipeline, yes, we said we expected sequential growth in fiscal 23, and we expect to set new operating records in the coming years, and we still have both of those expectations. Expect contributions from the acquisition of Nordis to be offset, or to offset the delay of those two immersive core titles. So, bolstering themselves via M&A, and they generally have a strong pipeline, just one that need to be a bit reshuffled.
One thing that isn't in this document is actually that their stock price has fallen almost 10% since this.
Wow.
Yep. So investors are not happy with those forecasts. They're not happy with those game delays. They're just not happy with those numbers after all.
Interesting. You see, it's the sort of thing, if you, and I can actually bring it up here, right, so if we get like Ubisoft stock, I actually think this illustrates this illustrates the point pretty well. So investors, I think quite obviously, are looking for results generally on a pretty short timeline. Like, it's pretty rare you get somebody who looks at a company like Tesla in 2014 and just decides they're going to stick with it for like years and years and years. Generally, people are shifting and moving around their portfolios. So if this is a situation of, yeah, well, there are good times, they're just quite a bit more ahead, then whenever the bad news comes out, you can sort of be like, oh shit, is this a good buying opportunity? Perhaps as an investor. And this is where I come to a place where I absolutely am kicking myself on Ubisoft. Because I remember in a video saying, hey, it would be a great idea to purchase Ubisoft shortly after Ghost Recon Breakpoint was a total flop. They did have some good stuff in their future lineup, but they basically stopped and, like, you remember that, right? They stopped and, went to totally rethink their whole slate. Yeah. They delayed so many games. And I'm trying to remember exactly when it was, but they were at these highs of 93, 94, 95 euro. And you just saw them, they were slipping, then, 73 down to, I believe, 46. And I think that's actually where Ubisoft did have Breakpoint be a big, big fuck up. And it's like, if you bought there, and then Ubisoft have since had it all go a bit wrong. But, if they actually were able to go on their slate, you could have almost doubled your money there, which is just a way of saying, unfortunately, Ubisoft had to delay delivering the goods again because all of those, or not all, but many of those games that they talked about at that particular earnings call where they announced their delays have since been delayed again, perhaps numerous times. So, you know, I just wonder for Take-Two then.
That's what I think is interesting, because that comes across to me like a really, I mean, obviously you said it's it's short-term investment. That's the goal. It seems like such a short-term move because like back in May, was it May or was it February? It was earlier this year. They were still just like, yeah, we've got 93 games in development. We're releasing all of them. 63 of them are core gaming experiences. 17 are mid-core, 13 are casual. Something like 23 games will be mobile only. And then they went and bought Nordeus, who are like they've 17 million euro in revenue for like they're Serbian for some football manager like game on mobile. And you're like, well, I would look at Take-Two as probably a damn good time to buy in, because as soon as GTA 6 has news, that's just going to go straight up again.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing. And it's the sort of thing you always have to look at these with a historical context. Like if you break up a 5-year chart of Take-Two, well, you see that even with their current dip, like they're still above. I mean, they're above where they were in 2020, right? So it's one of those things where it's like, relatively speaking, it would be a good time, but we obviously can't really predict the future. So like, it's basically just an interesting situation how the market is responding. I think this is a company though that has got incredibly strong IP. I mean, Grand Theft Auto, come on. And I think you can be pretty damn sure that GTA 6 is going to be developed with the success of GTA Online in mind.
Definitely.
I don't know exactly how they'll do it, but I imagine they'll be trying to really expand that experience. And I think any investor who looks at what GTA Online has been able to do kind of just knows that the company that is going to have the next GTA Online is probably a good bet. So it's interesting, the stock response. So yeah, there you go. As for the actual games, I'm not massively into Marvel, so I like XCOM, but maybe not. But a big game from Ken Levine sounds interesting. It was interesting diving into the reports of basically Ken Levine kind of flip-flopping at design ideals and kind of rubbing some of his team the wrong way, and just all of that stuff, with the final game that company made, which was BioShock Infinite. But perhaps with those lessons learned, we could be expecting something good.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of like the Embracer situation, where there's very, very little that comes out of Embracer's entire slate that makes you go, whoa, holy shit, this is going to be massive. But there's so many of them, and so many of them are just fine, perfectly enjoyable. Some are in the realm of, 20 to 30 quid for 8 to 10 hours of like AA, maybe verging on AAA experience, that you're like, you know what? This is a good time. This is a very good, diverse portfolio. Almost like Activision want to move into, or tried to with their Crash and their Spyro, like EA are talking about moving into, like they did with Star Wars Squadron, stuff like that. It feels like these companies, Take-Two definitely have the super AAA on the go with GTA, and then their new BioShock game, which is coming eventually, I think. Yeah. By the Cloud Studio, whatever they're called. But it feels like they have the diverse part of the market really, really down pat. They just need to get the massive, massive blockbusters that, in Take-Two's case, something to augment GTA, which is once every 500 years, but makes them all the money in the world.
Yeah, I generally feel quite good about them. I think this is just a pretty obvious and predictable dip in their overall slate, and I think no shit that things are going to be the way they are when you compare Q1 last year to Q1 this year. So, an interesting situation. I am very keen to see what this game from Ken Levine is like, and I think that's basically that for this story. So we will see you quite shortly. There's many other sort of big gaming companies all having their stuff go on. It's going to be really interesting as we see where the industry's headed. So stay tuned, and we will see you next time.